He became sin, who knew no sin, that we might become His righteousness. He humbled Himself and carried the cross. Love so amazing, love so amazing. Jesus Messiah, name above all names, blessed Redeemer, Emmanuel, the rescue for sinners, the ransom from heaven, Jesus Messiah, Lord of all. His body the bread, His blood the wine, broken and poured out, all for love. The whole earth trembled and the veil was torn. Love so amazing, love so amazing. Yeah. Jesus Messiah, name above all names, blessed Redeemer, Emmanuel, the rescue for sinners, the ransom from heaven, Jesus Messiah, Lord of all. All our hope is in you. All our hope is in you. All the glory to you, God, the light of the world. Jesus Messiah, name above all names, blessed Redeemer, Emmanuel, the rescue for sinners, the ransom from heaven, Jesus Messiah, the Lord of all. Jesus Messiah, Lord of all.
Welcome, welcome. Thanks for joining, everybody. I do appreciate you guys coming on to the broadcast here and supporting with all the likes and follows and shares, all this great stuff. You guys are awesome. Let me go on over here on Stationhead. Come on now. Can we relax? Is today's message for today. So I want to make sure that we're all set here. Oh no, the broadcast failed. What are you talking about? Let's go. Probably using up too much, although I lightened up one stream and put it onto there somewhere different. Oh boy, this thing is not working out well for me today. How about now? Last time. If not, we pack it up and go home. 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, this thing does not want to work for me. Let's get rid of some of this stuff. How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome and thank you for joining. Thank you for all the shares, all the invites, follows, hearts, likes, loves, all those emotion thingies. Thank you for being supportive. Oh my goodness, I had way too many apps open on this other phone. No wonder why I was having some issues. Alright, let's see what we got going on here. Make sure it's not my wife asking for something. Of course. Alright. So, she is good. Let's go back to Stationhead and turn that thing back on. So how you guys doing tonight? My name is Jason Wallace. I am a believer and follower of Jesus Christ. I'm a prayer warrior, an intercessor, I'm a Bible reader, I'm a devoted husband and father. I am a child of God. I am a new creation in Christ. I am a citizen of heaven. I am a friend of Christ. I am righteous and holy. I may have said those already, but it doesn't matter. Keep telling yourself this stuff because you are his child and you are forever his as long as you accept him. Right? So, thanks so much for joining. You're great. How am I? I am okay. And I'm live on air right now, thankfully, over on, I think that's how I pause it. We'll pause the music over there so they can actually hear me. Alright. You're great. How am I? Awesome, awesome. Yep, I got a new chat thingy going on. It's kind of cool looking. We were able to add on a couple different, change the way some things are done here a little bit. So it's kind of cool. So, definitely, I'll be adding on some different chat screen overlays as well. I have one for DLive that I'll be adding on as well. That one doesn't integrate yet with this chat product. So tonight we're broadcasting on YouTube, YouNow, Live.me, DLive.io, Periscope, of course Periscope, Facebook, Twitch, Smashcast has been fixed. Alright, FC2 is live, Peaks, Instajib, Vaughn Live, Africa TV, OK.ru, and of course Stationhead. And Rotterdammer, thanks for joining. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 places that we're streaming to tonight. And thanks so much for joining. Becky, my sister Becky's in the house. Guys, make sure you're following her on Periscope. Great broadcast. Great broadcast. And make sure you're following her. I hope my shirt is not too blue or green. It's like I'm sinking into the image here, but all right. We had a good day today. It was a good day. Got everything done, sort of, that I needed to get done. Don't you like that? I want to go to the beach. I want to go to the beach, and then I added on this wonderful. The chat thing is like. Is now it's Rickified, right? So it looks like something that Rick would, one of his shirts. So thanks for joining here. You know, it is a good thing that we all support each other. I was listening to a broadcast today, and it really made me think about how much we all of us Christians, we need to get on here and broadcast. It's not just about me. It's not just about Rick. It's not just about Becky or Josh or Israel Wendy or any of the other people who broadcast. It is about all of us who are Christians that we need to spread this word. And the only way we're going to do it is if we broadcast. Listen, you do not need to have fancy stuff like I got going on over here. I just do this stuff because I have a capability of doing it. But you don't have to do that. Hey, Blue Eyed Fairy, thanks so much for joining on the broadcast on DLive, or on YouNow. Thanks so much for being here. So this is what we got. Hey, Melanie, thanks for joining. They've got Angel Love over there, Pastor Rick's over there. Yeah, so guys, I challenge you, get on and broadcast and spread the good news of Jesus Christ, right? Doesn't have to be fancy. It can be just a plain room, you're where you are, outside at your, at your lunch break, whatever it may be. Hey, Michaela, I prayed for you this morning, so just, I don't need to say anymore. We prayed for you for sure, and hope that that situation has been rectified. Listen, there's no hoping, right? Let's claim it, right? If you were on Becky's broadcast, you heard her say the same thing. Listen, if you're praying, claim that healing. If you're needed something, we're going to sing it, brother. We're going to sing it in a second for sure. If you are praying and you are asking for it, don't just sit there and hope and not have faith in it, right? Take that, activate your faith, and claim it, right? Claim that thing. As long as you feel that you are in alignment with God, and God is speaking to you, and your words are your words are lining up with God's word, that is confirmation for you, right? Claim it. Claim your healing. Claim your stuff like that. Who's that? Platinum Mimi. Oh, I haven't seen you in a while, but thank you so much for joining. But thanks for being on here. It's awesome to see some new people, some older people, some people we haven't seen in a while. Thanks for joining. I'm not sure who that guy is, but there's actually somebody watching over on Nicole Howell. Nicole Howell, where are you coming from? You gotta be like in somewhere South America, somewhere. She's a missionary, great person who's listened to her her calling, right? And I'm not sure where she is. We'll see if she responds to my voice. We'll see. But yeah, it's definitely good. Hey, I sang a few songs with her. She's one of my SGE buddies, and it's really, really cool. In Honduras. See, she was in Honduras. That's right. And so she is out in the mission field, and just following what God has there, right? Claimed it. Aloha, exactly. Exactly. But you're home in Alabama for the moment. That's good. That's good. It's always good to come back, get to home and be in alignment, get straight and then go back out. It's not easy. Like, I did a few short-term missions where we went for, a week or two, and it is like so exciting to get ready to go, and you're there and you're up on this mountain, and you're on this beautiful mountain of just joy. I don't even know how to describe it. It is such great joy to be able to serve for the Lord, right, and to lead people to the Lord, and to be able to do that. Then when you're coming back home, it's like, all right, you're starting on that downhill. When you get home, sometimes you hit rock bottom. You're just like, oh boy, it's so, because you're on such a, I don't know, I hate to use the word high, but it really is, right? Pray for your fighting for an addiction. Let God continue to fix your life. Listen, we just talked about that. Seabolt, Anthony, listen, man. Listen, pray with us right now. Are you ready? Lord, Heavenly Father, we are claiming freedom from this addiction. Lord, we ask that these chains be broken. Lord, we ask that you free his mind, open up his open up his ability to be able to get rid of that addiction. Lord, let him drop whatever it is, whatever that substance is. Lord, let his mind not even think about it. Lord, allow him to be able to come in alignment with you. And Lord, we just agree that you are healing him and that he is freed from this addiction. In Jesus' mighty and powerful name, we pray. Amen. Amen. It's a bit of a culture shock coming home. Yes, absolutely. Even for a week, it's like, you know, when I was in the Dominican, so when you're in Dominican, it's even more interesting because you've got, you're running on Dominican time, and Dominican time is different than, you know, like you say you're going to leave at 10 o'clock. Well, it could be 11 o'clock. It could be 10:30. It could be 11:30. Sometimes you just don't know. You know, you just kind of sit and chill out. And it's just that, you know, you there. And so you just got to be, you got to be fat. You got to be flexible, adaptable, and trainable, right? So you got to be those to serve well. And if you are those, like if you just, you know, you go with the flow with the team that's there, and just be supportive with them, for them, be a support for them, it's a great feeling. I guarantee you'll have an awesome experience serving out in the short-term missions, because the long-term missions, people need people like us to help. Short-term people who are in the churches here that are going down for a week to go help out, give them little breaks. You know, do these you know, a lot of times it's vacation Bible schools, a lot of times it's interacting with the people. When you have groups of people that are coming into a village, like gringos, right? I'm a gringo. When the gringos come into the village, everybody surrounds us, right? Because they're so interested in wanting to know what is going on, right? And then we're there helping, right? We're there helping to helping the team just play with the kids, or you know, speak, tell your testimony, and you got a translator who says it, and it is good stuff. Just let me share this out to the SGE group on Facebook, if it'll find it. There we go. My computer's running a little bit slow tonight, so it's being a little bit pokey. Yeah, there's definitely some powerful things when you're out in the mission field. And I'm telling you, I've been there twice, been Dominican twice, and this year I took a break this year because my wife had knee surgery. So, but maybe next year, who knows? Maybe I'll go on the. We have a mission that goes down to a group that goes down to a mission in Texas, or in I'll say it. In Baja, Mexico, down to missions. What is it? Something for him. Anyways, it's an orphanage, and there's also a men's ministry there, and it's really good. You wish the volume was a little bit louder. Is my microphone not loud enough? I can beef it up if it's not loud enough. Or am I not plugged in? Hold on. It might not be on the right microphone. Let me grab it. No, it is. It's on the Logitech microphone. And it's bumped up all the way. Maybe it's your volume? Hold on. I can add some more volume to it if I need to. Gain. Let's go gain, and I can't tell where it's at right now, so you're going to have to tell me if that's any better. It's probably blowing your speakers out right now. Let's see. Nope. Still not high enough. Hold on. Properties. Filters. Let's go filters. Gain. And beef that thing up to there. How about that? Better? Louder? Hopefully that's loud enough for you guys. Yeah, I'm way in the red now, so I know I'm good. Sound is good now. Just speak softly. The gain helped. Good. Alright. It's low on your phone, but it's better now? That's good. Awesome. Yeah, no, I want to make sure you hear. Because we are going to be reading here in a second, and you definitely want to stick around and listen to this word for tonight, because it is definitely is good. You just speak softly. Yeah, I do speak a little softly. That is for sure. But I don't want to be too loud. I got someone sleeping in the room next door to me, and you prayed, and Jason, us, believing that you're healed. Yep, you got this. Just agree with that. Just agree and take it. And I love this new chat thing. It's really, really cool. The new chat thing. Oh, it's too loud now. Hold on. I don't think so. I'm in like the bottom of the red, so I think we're good. Alright. So, playing around with things. I'm all messed up because now I stopped and prayed. So sometimes that happens, right? We get a little confused, right? Uh-oh. Where's my picture? Hold on. Let's pull this back in here. I don't see me. How about now? Where's the web camera? Ruh-roh. Jesus did it. Oh, yeah, let me do that first. I'm totally, like, missing out on everything. You're good. Just turn your volume down. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know what's going on over here now. There we go. Just had to, like, pop it in for some reason. Webcam. I have no idea why the camera is not showing up, but that's okay. I'll deal with it. We'll make it work. Honestly, we will. We will definitely make this work. Alright, so make sure you check out the Jesus Did It website. I am one of the Jesus Did It broadcasters. Pastor Rick Costa's up there. Becky is up there. Becky Ryan. Israel Wendy. And also Joshua Ello. You definitely want to make sure you follow the top row. Down in the bottom rows there, those are the people that we like to watch. There's some pretty powerful people who give good messages that we like to watch during the our days and when we're watching, right? Because not only are we broadcasters, we watch too, right? So we definitely want to make sure that helps if I turn the camera on and then it will work, right? You're fighting God, put his armor on you, and now 9 months you're alone trying to get your kids back. Yeah, do it, man. Just don't pray about it. Just pray and seek his word, and definitely you will you'll prevail one way or another. All right. So I don't know. It's been a long time since I sang a song with Nicole. If she's still on, well, let me do a Control F, and I don't remember. I think her name was NIC. Nicole. It's been actually probably a while because she went out into the mission field in like November or something, wasn't it? Just before the holiday. Nicole. Yeah, I'm trying to find a song. I know we sang a song together. I want to find it. Yeah, we play our songs on here. This is what I do. It has been a while singing songs for sure. I'm trying to find it. There we go. Now we've got 3 of them. Nick Rose. Nicole. Oh, maybe it has been a while. That was your handle, wasn't it, Nicole Howell? Or was it something different? Has it been really that long? Wow. I mean, that's all the way down to my first song. You don't want to hear that one. That was a bad song. Let's see if I could find one. Endeavor, Tino, Tono, Kate Hot, KT Brownie, Havner. Oh, Fire Sparkle. See, fire. Sweetheart Fire, Fire and Rain, Set of Fire, of course, Set of Fire, Sweetheart Fire. No, we're Sparkle. We're looking for Sparkle. I might not have even sung a song with you. How interesting is that? Or Smil got rid of the song. I've had that happen before too, where I've had like songs that I've sang and like they pull it because somebody reported it or something. And all right, well, let's just pick a song. Let's pick a newer song, a little bit newer. You know, this one I really like the way she sang. Let's do this one. Hopefully it doesn't buffer and wait a minute. All right, here we go. I'm gonna go off the mic.
All the kingdoms built, all the trophies won.
Make it count.
Haven't seen JR in a while, but here we go.
Make it count, leave a mark, build a name for yourself. Dream your dreams, chase your heart above all else. Make a name the world remembers. But all an empty world can sell its empty dreams. I got lost in the light when it was up to me to make a name the world remembers. But Jesus is the only name to remember. And I don't want to leave a legacy. I don't care if they remember me. Only Jesus. And I've only got one life to live. I'll let every second point to Him. Only Jesus.
All the kingdoms built, all the trophies won, will crumble into dust when it's said and done. But all that really matters, did I live the truth to the ones I love? Was my life the proof there is only one whose name will last forever? And I don't want to leave a legacy. I don't care if they remember me. Only Jesus. And I've only got one life to live. I let every second point to Him. Only Jesus.
Jesus is the only name. Jesus is the only name. Jesus is the only name to remember.
remember.
And I don't wanna leave a legacy. I don't care if they remember me. Only Jesus. And I've only got one life to live. I let every second point to Him. Only Jesus.
Don't wanna leave a legacy.
I don't care if they remember me. Only Jesus.
Alright, so because we had a little bit of a fallout there.
A lamb who was slain. Holy, holy is
Got a loose
He.
connection, that's what happened. So here we go.
Sing a new song to Him who sits on heaven's mercy seat.
Worthy is the Lamb that was slain. Holy, holy is He. Sing a new song to Him that sits on heaven's mercy seat. Holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. With all creation I sing praise to the King of Kings. You are my everything, and I will adore you.
Clothed in rainbows of living color, flashes of lightning, rolls of thunder. Blessing and honor, strength and glory and power be to you, the only wise King. Yeah.
Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. Yeah. With all creation I sing praise to the King of Kings. You are my everything, and I will adore you. Filled with wonder,
awestruck wonder at the mention of your name. Jesus, your name is power, breath and living water, such a marvelous mystery. Yeah. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. Yeah. With all creation I sing praise to the King of Kings. You are my everything, and I will adore you. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. Yeah. With all creation I sing praise to the King of Kings. You are my everything, and I will adore you. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. Creation I sing praise to the King of Kings. You are my everything, and I will adore you. I will adore you.
Yes, thanks for joining. Praise God.
Praise God. Bless you.
Good song, good song. Wow, we have, I can't believe it, 369 viewers over on Periscope tonight. That is amazing. Thanks so much for all your shares, your invites, your follows, all the hearts. All that stuff is just great, and I thank you so much. It looks like I got a little loose connection, so I gotta be careful here. That's probably what happened with the sound a little bit earlier. I'm trying to figure out why did it go off. Well, that's why it went off. All right. So we read our Bible here. This is what we do. Because really, how else are we going to get to know God if we don't read His words? If we don't read His words, how are we supposed to have a relationship with Him if we don't know His words? So definitely check out today's Bible reading, and it's going to be Psalm chapter 77. And let's see if we get to use the tool here. I use the Blue Letter Bible, and we're reading from the New King James Version. And I thank you for joining me on this journey from Genesis to Revelation, one chapter at a time when we broadcast. So thanks so much for joining. And let me get a little drink before we get reading. Let me get this guy off of mute. All right, there we go. Boom, boom, boom. Welcome back, Station Head. Station Head has its own music because that's the way it works. We got to use their music. All right, so for today's reading, we are reading from Psalm chapter 77. To the chief musician, to Jehoiathan, right, or Jeduathan, right? Let's figure out. Let's go. All right, let's use the tool. Let's find out how to say the right word, right? So let's find out how to say it. It's
Strong's H 3038. Yeduthun.
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 Second entry. Yeduthun. Yeduthun.
There you go.
Third entry.
Oh, we got 3 entries.
Yedithun.
Ooh.
Yedithun.
Yedithun. Really? Yedithun. See? That's pretty cool. So the tool here is really, really good. It helps you learn the words, back into either the Greek or the Hebrew or whatever it was written in. and it really does help to understand the words, right, and how to say it properly, the person's name, right? So to the chief musician, to Yedithun, right, a psalm of Asaph, right, that's where we learned that one the other day. I cried out to God with my voice, to God with my voice, and he gives ear to me, right? He gave his ear to me. The consoling memory of God's redemptive works. In the day of my trouble, I sought the Lord. My hand was stretched out in the night without ceasing. My soul refused to be comforted. I remembered God and was troubled. I complained. Wow. I complained and my spirit was overwhelmed. Selah, right? Selah? Selah. You hold my eyelids open. I am so troubled that I cannot speak. I have considered the days of old, the years of ancient times. I call to remembrance my song in the night. I meditate within my heart, and my spirit makes diligent search. Will the Lord cast off forever? And will he be favorable no more? Has God forgotten to be gracious? Has he in anger shut up his tender mercies? Selah. And I said, this is my anguish, but I will remember the years of the right hand of the Most High. I will remember the works of the Lord. Surely I will remember your wonders of old. I will also meditate in all your work and talk of your deeds. Your way, O God, is the sanctuary. Who is great a God as our God? You are the God who does wonders. You have declared your strength among the peoples. You have your arm redeemed your people. You have with your arm redeemed your people, the sons of Jacob and Joseph. Selah. The waters saw you, O God. The waters saw you. They are afraid. The depths also trembled. The clouds poured out water. The skies sent out a sound. Your arrows also flashed about. Your voice of your thunder was in the whirlwind. The lightnings lit up the world. The earth trembled and shook. Your way was in the sea, your path in the great waters, and your footsteps were not known. Glad to see you too. Pastor Shazia's in the house. Thanks so much for joining. And your footsteps were not known. You led your people like a flock by the hand of Moses and Aaron. And that is chapter 77 of the New King James Version of the Bible. Best X Gamer, thanks for joining on YouNow. Thanks for being here. What's going on? 1003899917352. Yeah, it's a whole lot of numbers. Thanks for joining. I'm just gonna call you a whole lot of numbers. Thanks for joining on YouNow, guys. Thanks for being here. Thanks for supporting the Jesus Did It group. You guys are awesome, and I do appreciate you guys being here. So, God bless you. God bless you too, man. All right. So, today's what are you doing? I'm reading stuff. I'm reading stuff. I am not a pastor. I am, I don't know what you want to say. We're all called to be, to share the gospel, right? So, I am people call me a pastor. I suppose that I would probably be able to, thinking about preacher. Yeah, I guess preacher, evangelist, however you want to call it. I'm here doing what the Lord has told me to do. So I'm come on a broadcast to share the word, right? So definitely. All right, guys, I am an ambassador for the Our Daily Bread, right? See right there. Woohoo! See? Ambassador for Our Daily Bread. And so, because of that, we read the Our Daily Bread. It is a great free devotional. You might want to check out. It might be at your church, right? You might be able to find it at your church. And if not, you can go to the website at odb.org, right? And sign up, and they will send you a copy. Or you can get it on your phone. You can get it through email, or you really need Jesus in your life? Me too, man. That's good. So stick around with us. Follow me, and we'll get a little bit of Jesus at a time. All right. You don't gotta take the big bite on the things if you're not ready yet. Right? Definitely here. Go to sleep and stay. What is that? Stay your time. I don't know what he said. I'm not picking up what he said, but whatever. No, listen, man. I am called to do this work. You've lost your faith. You've just given up. That's all. Stick around. I think this will. Listen, man. You need to hear this. All right, you need to hear this. So check out the odb.org and get your own copy. Or if you need one, really need one, and you know in the area, yeah, stick around, man. You might need this one too, Mr. Numbers. So here we go. For Tuesday, June 4th, pray for your country. We will definitely pray for your country. Tuesday, June 4th. All right. Wow, June already. I cannot believe it. The title is "Can We Relax?" And this is written by Annie Cetas. All right. Darnell entered the physical therapist's office knowing he would experience a lot of pain. The therapist stretched and bent his arm and held it in positions it hadn't been in for months since his injury. After holding each uncomfortable position for a few seconds, she gently told him, "Okay, you can relax." He said later, "I think I heard that at least 50 times in each therapy session. Okay, you can relax." Thinking of those words, Darnell realized that they could apply to the rest of his life as well. He could relax in God's goodness and faithfulness instead of worrying. Boom. As Jesus neared his death, he knew his disciples would need to learn this. They'd soon face a time of upheaval and persecution. We still are today, right? To encourage them, Jesus said that he would send his Holy Spirit to live within them, right? And remind them of what he had taught, okay? And so he could say, "Peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." Thanks for joining, Christina. Do not be afraid. There's plenty we could be uptight about in our everyday lives. We can grow in our trust in God by reminding ourselves that his Spirit lives in us, and he offers us his peace. As we draw on his strength, we can hear him in the therapist's words, "Okay, you can relax." That's amazing. That is great. That is awesome. So the question for today, you ready? Here's questions for you. What causes you stress? What characteristics of God can help you learn to trust him more? Yes. Prayer for today says, "Teach me, Jesus, to trust your faithfulness and to know your presence, to experience your peace, to relax." There you go, Best Gamer X. That one was for you tonight, friend. And put your trust in him. Put your trust in him. You definitely. Whew, that was a good word tonight. Oh my goodness. That was like hitting home in a couple different spots. Wow. Chakale. Chakale? Is that how you say your name? Chakale. Thanks for joining on You Now. What's going on? Was it Sknine PZ? Thanks for joining. DZ. Where is DZ? It's country of DZ. Interesting. Alright, let me close that one. Alright, Pastor Shazia, you are in Pakistan, right? If I do remember correctly. So let's pray for Pakistan. Let's do that because there is a lot of people, Christians especially in Pakistan, that are being persecuted. And we definitely need to pray for that. For her situation, for sure. Sorry about that. It is a bit late, but that's all good. So let's pray. Lord Heavenly Father, we just thank you for Pastor Shazia and her group of her Christian group, her church, right? Your church that's in Pakistan, Lord. We pray for those people who are suffering with persecution, Lord. Lord, we just ask that the persecution be put a hedge of protection around them, Lord. Allow them to be able to worship you and to praise you and to build whatever building or church or even if it's just out under a tree. Lord, we just ask that you make a way for them to be able to come together and to be able to worship you in fellowship. Lord, we thank you for the Christian church in Pakistan, Lord, and we just thank you for the diligence of the leaders like Pastor Shazia, who continually press on, even though they are having oppression and pushed down. Lord, we thank you for her diligence, Lord, and we just ask that you strengthen her and strengthen her family and strengthen the other leaders in her church, Lord. Lord, we just ask that in your mighty and powerful Son's name we pray. Amen and amen. What's up, Ryan Shamanari? I messed up your name. Sorry about that. No gaming content. Once you've corrected these issues. Oh, look at that. I got banned. Oh, that's good. Oops. Let me go pull it back. Oh, stop it. 0120. I got banned on live.me because I don't have any gaming content on a broadcast that I'm using the gaming stream. I might have to go back to using the old regular streaming app. So, how's it going there? Someone who's written their name in Arabic, thanks so much for being here. Thanks for being here, and salam. Yep, someone reported me on live.me. That's alright. We'll broadcast normally. And just because someone is being not so nice on live.me, they can know that I'm not going to be defeated. We're not going to be defeated. And we definitely won't be able to do all the cool stuff, but we got filters over there and stuff like that. Stuff like that. So here we go, live. Alright, we'll just pull it back. Guys, if you have any prayer requests, praise reports, please put them in the chat stream so we can pray for you. And we'd love to lift you up and pray to God for you. I want to pray for Best Gamer X. I'm not sure. Beast X Gamer, sorry. I'm calling him Best Gamer. I don't even know He's from the Philippines. He's from the Philippines. Alright, welcome back. Live.me. Looks like they don't like people broadcasting using the OBS streamer if they're not. It froze, of course. It froze! It's all good. Live.me doesn't know who they're dealing with. That's okay. We'll just keep pushing. It's not a big deal. We will continue to broadcast the same way we do every time. I'm going to switch this and switch it and switch it back. And then go to standard beam. Let's see here. Let's see what's going on with this thing. My camera is frozen on Live.me. Now what nice is that? Boy, they're playing games with me today. Do you want to finish the broadcast? Why do people say to spam the ones? I don't know. I don't know, man. I'll be back in a second. My camera's all frozen, I think. You don't see me moving, only see me stuck, right? Your Lee Lion, whatever it is. Yeah, it's all frozen. It's all good. Alright, we have a great broadcast tonight. 435 people on Periscope. Goodness. That's a good number. That's a real good number. I haven't seen numbers like that in a while. So great. Thank you so much for joining those people who are on here, and just keep spreading the word of God, guys. I challenge you to broadcast. Just come on, 5 minutes. Just pray for somebody, pray for yourself, pray for anybody. Read a Bible verse, right? Hey, are you all seeing your comments? I'm seeing them now, and I'm moving, that's for sure. Thanks so much for joining. I see your comments, Lisa. Let's pray for Beast X Gamer, and I'm gonna drop out of Live.me because it's just stuck on silly. I have no idea why it's not working. What's up there, Hand Tina? Thanks so much for joining. I'm guessing Hand is your last name. I got C on that broadcast. It was only a couple of minutes. So, wait a minute. What is this? Oh, there's a new pastor over here. Christian Fellowship. Oh, I'll have to go check him out. Oh, looks like I already am. It's a followed broadcast. All right. So, Hand Tina, guys, we got to all get together and broadcast. Let's do this. You can do it. I know you can. All right. Live.me. You're gonna be a pain, but I'm gonna be even more of a pain. You're not seeing anyone's comments. There's not very many people commenting right now, so I don't know who's might be seeing. Let's see. Let's get Live.me back again for the third time. Let's see if this thing's gonna actually work this time. There we go. Live.me. Yeah, I can see your comments, so I'm pretty sure everybody else can because it's showing up on the screen there. So for sure. Very interesting. I had no viewers on over on DLive. It's very interesting. Usually get one or two. Hopefully the stream, well, it says the stream's coming through, so it's good. Yeah, I was just using something different for DLive, so there we go. I guess we're back. 3, 2, 1, and we're back. Live.me. Thanks for joining. Back on again. You guys are getting the ugly background green screen stuff. I'm sorry. They decided that they don't want me to use the streaming, the OBS over on without having gaming content, which I don't understand what the problem is, but hey, whatever. It's all good. Whatever. What's up, New Throw? Thanks so much for joining. Thanks for being here. Definitely So guys, if you have any more prayer requests or praise reports, we would love to lift them up to our God, right? So let's come into fellowship and just pray for each other. I want to pray for Nicole too. I want to pray for Beast Gamer. Let's do that. Lord Heavenly Father, we lift up Nicole tonight, Lord, Nicole Hall. Lord, we just lift her up. We ask that you rejuvenate her while she is here. Lord, allow her to be able to get rest and relaxation and continue to grow and listen to your word, Lord. Lord, we ask that you use her as the missionary that you've called her to be, Lord. We ask that you give her an assignment in the field that she will be able to make the most positive and impactful impact for the kingdom. Lord, we just thank you for Nicole, and we ask that you just put blessings upon her life, Lord, and just protect her while she's in the field. In your mighty and powerful Son's name we pray. Amen and amen. Rose Lady, thanks for joining. Lord, we lift up Beast Gamer X. Beast X Gamer. Lord, we lift up them, and we ask that put a video game in the background. That's not a bad idea, Melanie. That's not a bad idea at all. I was actually wanting to do some of that gaming. I want to play a couple games. It's kind of a way to lead people to talk about Jesus, you know, while they're watching the gaming. But we'll see what happens. So let's lift up Beast X Gamer. Lord, we lift up that person who is calling themselves Beast X Gamer. Lord, we know that they have said that they have lost their faith, Lord, and they are no longer in alignment with you. Lord, we just ask that you whisper in their ear and just tell them that they are loved, and know that they are your child, Lord, and that you would never leave them and never forsake them. Lord, we just ask for continued strengthening. Lord, allow them to be able to renew their mind and be able to refresh and come back in alignment with you. Lord, we just ask that you continue to make ways for that person to be able to draw closer to you. Lord, we ask this in your mighty and powerful Son's name we pray. Amen and amen. Welcome, Sky. Thanks so much for joining on the broadcast on YouKnow. Thanks so much for being here. I have to put a video game in the background. That's not a bad idea. I have to figure out what to do there, you know. Or we'll just do a separate live.me broadcast. Bravo, Mr. Mr. Moderator. Thanks. Someone reported me on live.me for not having gaming content, so I don't give up. What's up, Riff Raff? You too, man. Hey, Magamori. Thanks so much for joining, Magamori. You're from Japan. Magamori, you're from the U.S. Thanks so much for joining. There, Lisa's back. What's up? I don't know how to say your name, but it looks good. Thanks for joining. Who's that? Lisa Rogalski. Thanks so much for joining on Facebook. Thanks for joining. Guys, have any prayer requests or praise reports? Please put them in the chat stream. We'd love to pray for you. All of us together collectively lifting up your prayers. Alright. No need to wait around tonight. So guys, if there's no prayers, I'm going to bed. That's how it is, because we have 451 viewers on Periscope. That is amazing. I have not seen that number in forever, a long time. Hopefully those numbers will continue. If we continue to get those creep up numbers, it'll be good. So yeah, like I was saying, I was listening to Praying Medic. I was listening to his broadcast today, and he talks about us being the soldiers, right? You know, the soldiers in the Lord's army, and that we all need to broadcast. We all need to just go and do that. Good night. Share and invite. Thank you so much. 2240 hearts. Oh my goodness, go rest your finger. That's crazy. Thanks so much for supporting on a very high level. I appreciate that very much. Thank you so much, Lisa. Go get some rest. What is that? Proverbs something. Go get some sleep. That's where I'm about ready to go too. Proverbs. Go get some sleep. What is that one? Proverbs. Sleep. Sweet sleep, wasn't it? Sweet sleep. Search results. Proverb in the book of Proverbs. Search and Proverbs. What's going on? God Likes Jones. What's going on? There he is. Pastor Rick woke up. Or you're at the gym. What are you doing? 3:24. Proverbs 3:24. Well, I don't need to search it now. PRO 3:24. Proverbs 3:24. 3:24. When you lie down, you will not be afraid. Yes, you will lie down, and your sleep will be sweet. Right? Beautiful. That's a beautiful verse. Yes. I'm going to go sleep soon too. God Likes Jones. Thanks for joining. I think I already said thanks for joining. You know. What's going on, Angelic? Thanks so much for joining. Living Color. Living Louder 29. Okay. Okay. And that's where it's at, I guess. Okie dokie. No more. We're going to shut her down because it is time to go to bed. Gotta go to work tomorrow. But I needed to broadcast tonight. Isn't it great? All three. Oh, that's going to be an interesting one to read. It says Jehovah's Witnesses, Jesus and the Holy Trinity by Walter Martin. Oh, I'm going to go check that one out. I want to go check that. Oh, it's an audio too. Alright, no, we're not going to play that one now. But yes, we're going to go to sleep. I'll play that while I'm sleeping, I guess. Alrighty. So, we have a bunch of prayer requests that I already said there. So, yes, you needed that. A bad nightmare last night woke you up in the mid-morning. I haven't been getting good sleep at all lately. I have not been getting good sleep. Last 3 days. I don't know. So I said no drinks, no sodas. What's up, Bad Doggy? Thanks so much for joining. Just now I'm drinking the JDI trifecta, right? Right? You know, we just need what is her name? Nana something. She Wendy has changed her name or has a new account. Thanks so much for the hearts over there, Electric Player. Thank you for joining. Yeah, so I'm drinking water. So I can get some sleep tonight. No soda, no coffee, no, not too much extra food. That's it. Maybe we'll get some sleep. And with a viewership of 458, I am very well pleased. And I know that the Lord is too, because we've probably spoke to a couple people tonight and gave them a chance to renew, right, with knowing who Jesus is. Thanks for joining over here. What is it? Moon Vibes. Thanks for being here. Good morning. I totally did not see the thing there, but thanks so much for being here. Yeah, so we broadcast on a bunch of different broadcast platforms. Batman, right? Isn't that cool? That's it. Oh, Nana, something. Yeah, something. I forget. Thanks for joining, A Rose. Thanks for joining. What's going on, man? Thanks for being here. Guys, if you have any prayer requests or praise reports, we just got done reading our Bible, and you know, we play some songs, we fellowship. So if you need any prayer requests or praise reports, we're broadcasting on a whole bunch of different platforms, and so it's really, really good to be able to do that. Kay Dolly, thanks so much for the share. Wow, I haven't seen anybody that much movement over on Live.me in a while. So thanks for being here. And so yeah, we're broadcasting on YouTube, YouNow, Live.me, DLive.io, Periscope, Facebook, Twitch, Smashcast, FC2, Stream, no, not Stream.me, Peaks, Instajib, Vaughn Live, Africa TV, OK.ru, and Stationhead. So we're doing a bunch of different broadcasts, and we're getting the word of God out there, but not in like a beat the Bible over your head type way. You know, we try to have a little bit of fun, try to be light about it, calmer, just chill. You know, let's talk about it. Let's get into well, thanks so much for joining, Kay Dolly. I will give you a follow and check your stream out, because that's what we do, right? 100 likes. So thanks so much. Wow, cool. So thanks for being here. We've got someone else in the room. Is that Kamara Chronicles? Thanks so much for being here. And guys, we are in prayer time. So if you have any prayer requests or praise reports, otherwise we're going to turn the music on and we're going to head on out. The list of the ones you're not on is probably shorter, right? Listen, I'm not here to gloat it. I just want you guys to know that. So appreciate you spreading it. No problem. You grew up in the Word of God. That's a good place to be. You know what happens when you grow up in there? Your sound is not working, so you can't hear me? Hello, though. Okay. Oh, I got no music on, so that's probably why you don't hear it. But you probably just hear my voice. Yeah, when a child grows up in a house that teaches the true Word of God, right, and the child learns and grows with that in there, even when they're an adult and they're drawn away and they're not close to God, right, at that point, right, it's still in there, right? It's like knitted into their being, and they'll be able to use that to be able to help them through life, right? So even though you may have, you may not be on the quote unquote up and up, right? Or things might not be going as good as it is, you can always rely on that word that's tucked away into your heart and know that you are a child of God, that you are a citizen of heaven, that you're righteous and you're holy and you're redeemed and you are healed and you are forgiven. It doesn't matter what you do. As long as you accept Him as your Lord and your Savior, you got it. You got the keys to the kingdom, right? And you don't have to do anything special other than just believe and repent that sin and just try to turn away from it and just call on the name of Jesus and say, Lord, I'm here. Far from perfect. Listen, I'm nowhere near perfect. I got certain times I got the mouth of a trucker, and sometimes I've been working on that one a lot. But yeah, everything will fall into place if you trust in Him. You got that right. That is absolute truth right there. You don't have to force it. You don't have to be fake. You don't have to be, oh, I go to church every Sunday and I go to, it's good to go to church. Absolutely. It's good to go to church, but don't think that you're just going to church is going to be, how you're going to strengthen that relationship with Him. You got to get into your Word every day. You gotta go to church. You have to be active, right? Applying what you're learning, right, about what you know. Go out there, be good with people, help out. What's up, Sharif? Thanks so much for joining. Go and just let people see Jesus in you, right? You haven't been to church since high school. Listen, that's the way I was. I wouldn't go to church maybe Christmas and Easter. It was a long time. I came back to the Lord when I was 40. Wow, it's been 5 years now. I know, I'm an old fart. I'm sorry. But, I don't feel old, I don't feel old. I feel renewed, right? And every day is just, it's a good day, and I try to wake up with that same feeling every day. It's like a life group thing you do. What days you usually stream? Well, I had not been very consistent with streaming, but yeah. So what we do is we are a group of broadcasters, and you can check it out if you search for Jesus Did It, or you go to JesusDidIt.org. You can find a guy named Pastor Rick Costa that's on here on live.me, and he broadcasts every day. He broadcasts every day. Most of the time it's at like 6 o'clock Eastern. Sometimes it's at 9:30, like Wednesdays and on the weekend sometimes. But that's what we do. We lift each other up. We're a group of family. We call family. And so we have a Facebook group, so you can join over there. If live.me wouldn't have kicked out my my broadcast, they banned me every day. Every day. You'd be able to see all the great stuff that goes on with my broadcast, but you know what? That's okay. But you can join us on any one of the other platforms as well. Facebook, YouTube. Just look for Jason Wallace. Just look for the same name, same handle, pretty much the same one all over it. That's every single one that I have has the guy. That's me pointing down the shirt like this. So that way you'll be able to find me. So we're on YouTube, YouNow, Live.me, DLive.io, which is a real cool one and interesting. Periscope, of course, our flagship broadcasting that we broadcast on is on there. Free Kesha, thanks so much for joining on YouNow. Facebook, Twitch, Smashcast, FC2, Peaks, InstaJib, Vaughn Live, Africa TV, OK.ru, and we're on audio on Station Head. So definitely take your pick. You can catch the broadcast on any one of the platforms, because that's what we do. So guys, I thank you so much for joining. I appreciate your supporting me, and for my flaky shirt that's like slowly fading me into the blue. It's like sinking me into the picture a little bit. But that is awesome. So guys, thanks for being here. Thanks for supporting at a high level. Listen, if you or your church or your business are really interested in getting live streaming up and working, and you want to know how to do it, and you need a consultant, I would definitely highly recommend that you seek me out and send me an email at jason@jesusdidit.org, and we'll work with you. We'll figure out what parts you already have, what things you may need, what we can do, how we can do it, and we'll work on it. We'll talk about budgets. We'll talk about getting things going, and we'll work with you on that. Don't think that it's like some super great amount of money, because a lot of times I put you to work and I let you do it. You're my hands and my feet, and I'll just remote in and make stuff work. So, and obviously teach you how to do it, so we save you a little bit of money with that, because sometimes those types of services can be really, really, really expensive, and we're trying not to do that. And then any money that is made off of any of those types of things would be put back into this ministry, right? I am running on some pretty old equipment. I've got an 11-year-old laptop, and I've got an 8-year-old laptop, and a couple older phones, and stuff that needs to be kind of upgraded and renewed and a little bit quicker. So I'm looking at, I actually went and looked at a machine that would take away 2 of the computers, for sure, if maybe not even the 3rd computer too. somewhere around $1,000. So we are praying for that, and if you feel led to support, you can drop in Cash App or Venmo or PayPal if you feel led. I'm not telling you have to, but if you go to PayPal.me, all three of them, PayPal me, Cash App, or Venmo, are all Jason R. Wallace. Did you miss the singing? No, we're gonna do another song in a second on our way out. So no, you did not miss it. So just hold on a second, and we're gonna come back in. All right, guys. At the end of this month, we are gonna be doing our group broadcast. And last month, everybody's like, we want to hear your testimonies, so our testimonies. So on the end of the month on Periscope and Facebook Live. So if you go to Jesus Did It TV accounts on either Facebook or on Periscope, you'll be able to follow us and make sure that you catch that, because I think it's going to be the end of the month on the last Friday of the month, or last Saturday of the month, 6:30 or something like that. I don't know. We'll get the information out to you guys. Don't worry about it. Go follow the Facebook page, and that way you will definitely be able to get the information, because we will post it on the Facebook page for sure once we have a solid date. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's going to be the date. All right, so someone wants to hear a song on our way out. We'll do that. So guys, I thank you so much. Let's pray and just let's pray, and let's bring it together, and let's head on out. So let's do that. Prayer time. YouTube.com. What's going on? Thanks so much for. Wow, he's just like, hey, play that song, because that's, yeah. I don't know about that. Number one, your handle is skeptic. No offense, but I might be a skeptic. Just saying. Let's go see it. I'm gonna go see it. You guys don't play that, because you don't know what it is. It could be something totally not what you want it to be. It could be a bad song with a whole bunch of bad words. It's all good. And maybe it's not. You know, I don't know. But it's Jesus of Suburbia, Green Day. I kind of figured. So that's all right. That's all right. So don't play that song. Jesus is our Savior, man. No matter what this world will try to do, we will maintain and trust and believe in Him. So let's pray, and let's pray over this broadcast. Let's head on out. Let's get some rest and be blessed. All right. All right. Let's pray. Lord Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this opportunity tonight to be able to lift up prayer requests, Lord, and be able to spread your word, Lord, and just be able to present the gospel to those that were on the broadcast. Lord, I just thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate your being able to facilitate time and also the technology to be able to do these broadcasts. Lord, I thank you for the Jesus Did It group. I thank you for the Jesus Did It family. I thank you for even the trolls that come on the broadcast, Lord, the ones that you know, kind of lighten up the mood a little bit. The ones that are not disruptive, you know, completely disruptive. Lord, I just thank you, because I know that they are hearing your word. They're drawn in for a reason. At least they get to hear your word just a tiny little bit. Lord, I know that it will start pricking at their heart and start softening them up. Lord, and we just know that you are so good to us, Lord. You love us. You will never, ever leave us or forsake us. So, Lord, I just thank you for this, what you've done for us, what you've done for us on the cross. You died for our sins. You took away all of our sins when you died on that cross. Lord, and you were buried, rose 3 days later. And then you you ascended to heaven and said that you would return again one day. So Lord, as we patiently wait for that time of your return, we will worship you, we'll honor you, and we'll give you thanks forever and ever. In your mighty and powerful Son's name, Jesus, we pray to our Lord, our God. Amen and amen. Alrighty. Let's head on out. I love you guys. Get some rest. Be blessed. Know that Jesus Christ loves you. And that is the most important thing. We got 517 viewers on Periscope. Boom. Awesome. Thanks so much for a great broadcast. Thank you so much for being here. Hit your follow on all the different platforms. If you want to, go to linktr.ee/Jason R. Wallace 7, and you can catch all the different platforms that I'm on, and you can pick and choose whichever one you'd like to follow. So that is that. So I think we're done. Let's head on out. Let's put some music on. Let's go on out. Let's make it a day. Get some rest. Tomorrow will be awesome. Thank you so much for being here, and I appreciate every single one of you for all your hearts, invites, and follows and shares, likes, thumbs ups, all that stuff. You guys are awesome. I do appreciate it. All right. God bless you, and have a very, very nice
Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I'll worship your holy name. The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I'll worship your holy name.
You're rich in love and you're slow to anger. Your name is great and your heart is kind. For all your goodness I will keep on singing. 10,000 reasons for my heart to find. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I'll worship your holy name.
Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I'll worship your holy name.
I'll worship your holy name.
I'll worship your holy The head that once was crowned with thorns is crowned with glory now. The Savior knelt to wash our feet, now his feet we bow. The one who wore our sin and shame, now robed in majesty, the radiance of perfect love now shines for all to see. Your name is victory. All praise will rise to Christ our King. Your name is victory. All praise will rise to Christ our King. The fear that held us now gives way to Him who is our peace. His final breath upon the cross is now alive in me. Your name is victory. All praise will rise to Christ our King. Your name is victory. All praise will rise to Christ our King. By your Spirit I will rise from the ashes of defeat. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. In your name I come alive to declare your victory. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. By your Spirit I will rise from the ashes of defeat. Your resurrecting King is resurrecting me. In your name I come alive to declare your victory. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. The tomb where soldiers watched in vain was borrowed for 3 days. His body there would not remain. Our God has robbed the grave. Our God has robbed the